Hello, I'm Vessa Reinhart-Phillips, the director of Intuitive Insights School of Intuition, and I'm joined here with my usual guest, the number one clairvoyant teacher in the United States, Corey Davidson. Hello, Corey.
Hi, how are you today?
I'm doing great,
I'm
feeling good.
excited for our guest.
Yes, yes. I am especially thrilled today because we have Joe Gacoscos, who's the award-winning author of Journey of the Awakened Soul, and he's also the world-class psychic mastery mentor. And he's going to teach us some skills today on intuitive decision making. Welcome, Joe.
Hi to both of you. It's so great to reconnect with you guys, and I'm so excited to be here.
Yes, Joe used to work at Intuitive Insights years ago, and we're so thrilled to see him again. So I'm going to ask you, Joe, a couple of questions, but for starters, is what led you to wanting to share topics about intuition?
Well, great question. So, the thing that I'm seeing nowadays is that we live in amazing times of Google and AI, and people could get instant answers. Like literally last night, my cousin's car battery died. I'm not mechanical, right? But we looked it up on Google and we changed his battery and the whole thing, like in the dead of the night, and we got instant answers, right? But I notice that a lot of people are using these things, getting their answers or instant answers, but they're feeling more lost than ever. Y'all seen that in your world? Like people, that's why
Absolutely.
people come to trainings like this, right? And so
Absolutely.
they're looking at these answers that Chat GPT spits out, and they're like, something still feels missing. Something doesn't feel right, right? And they're asking questions like, I want a new career, or I want a new boyfriend, or what's next on my spiritual path. And it could even be something as simple as like, what do I want to eat today? And so people are getting these surface answers on ChatGPT or wherever they're getting it from, right? Google. But when it really comes down to it, they're sitting there and they get these great answers, but they're still not like connected with their answer. It's not feeling right. And therefore they just don't take action on anything. So to answer your question, Vesa, this is what I feel compelled to share today is like, how do you trust your gifts? How do you know what's the right signal? What, how do you know that this divine thing, you see a gold rose, and how do you know what to take action on? Because really, when it boils down to it, why bother tapping into your gifts in the first place, right? If
Yeah.
not to get answers from the divine, make great decisions, and therefore ultimately lead a great life, right?
Yeah. And, along with that, it just reminds me of this kind of funny story. One time I was on the set of Deepak Chopra filming a menopause video, and we were breaking for lunch, and there was a LA camera crew that was in the filming, and it was over a Easter weekend. And so even though we were in San Diego, we had to film with the camera crew from LA. And
That was probably us. No, I'm kidding.
and Deepak was leaving for lunch, and the people on the LA film crew blocked the entrance and said, "You need to change into this other shirt." They had a little hanger, and they said, "Because you can't take that to lunch, because if you mess it up, then we won't be able to film." Blah blah blah. And Deepak went into this intuition moment, and he said, "I'm not going to spill anything on my shirt." And the film crew said, "I'm sorry, but you can't leave." And they blocked the door and forced him into the restroom. And he's like, I intuitively know I'm not going to do this. Anyway, he had to change his shirt and go. And it was really an interesting moment. Of course, he came back with no stains on his shirt, no spills on his shirt, and he had to change back into the other shirt and all. But it was kind of a silly example, but it's just sometimes and he was very certain about his decision making, and so it was fantastic to see. But anyway, go ahead. So what else were
Love
you going
that.
to say?
Love that. So I want to piggyback on your story just to share a personal story of mine that I shared in my book. And early on, as a kid, streetlights would turn off for me all the time, right? And I look around and it's like, turned off again. But in the background, I was like, that is that my grandmother, right? And my grandmother passed away decades ago. When I was like 4 years old, I did not know her. And this started when I was a kid. Decades flew by, right? 20 years of this flew by, and the whole time streetlights turn off. Is that my grandmother? And it's so funny because Vessa, I attended your classes in your school, the class about talking to dead people. And in that class, guess what? Grandma came through. And we just went through the steps. I'm like, okay, Grandma, was that you? And she said yes, right? And then I asked a follow-up question. So, what's your message? What have you been trying to tell me this entire time? And she goes, I just wanted to let you know I was just watching over you.
Wow.
So
Well,
simple, right? It's just a super simple message. But let me tell you guys, from that moment on, the streetlights stopped turning off for me,
oh,
right?
because you said hello and the communication was complete.
Yeah,
I that's just amazing. And if I can piggyback on your story,
sure.
is one time I had this boss that I just loved. He was a fantastic psychic and named Richard, and he died, and I had to set up a funeral with 750 people. It was a big deal, and I was in total grief, but I had to get his mom to the service. I had to get the ushers. I had to get the hall rented. I had to all this stuff, and one of the other bishops at this church, metaphysical church, called up John. He called up and he said, Vessa, how are you doing? And I said, I'm doing fine, but Richard owes me a pizza for this because this is a lot of work. And we both kind of chuckled. About an hour later, a friend burst through past my receptionist into my office, opens the door and said, I don't know. I was driving past a pizza place, and I know you don't eat a lot of dairy, but I just kept getting this message: stop and get Vessa a pizza. And so here you go. And I was like, oh wow, thank you. And I took a bite, and I did Richard's right there. I said, thank you, Richard. He got me the pizza. It was so funny. Corey, you're a clairvoyant teacher. You teach people how to be psychic or bring out their innate gifts. Do you have a quick story about something intuitive that you
Well,
did or you saw?
in the beginning of my training, Joe was my teacher. And I haven't seen you since then, so it's so great to see you. Um, and you know what? And gosh, I have so many stories. However, my nephew was graduating from the Marines. Like my dad was in the Army, but nobody else had gone into the military, and we were running late. Like the time for us to get from where we were to where graduation wasn't possible. And so I was like, oh my gosh, like what are we going to do? Like we have to show up. And I was like, you know what? We're going to make it. We're going to make it. And some of the tools that I've learned and now teach at Intuitive Insights, I used to, I got my guide to clear the traffic. I said, I want a parking space right out front because I had an injured foot. I had shattered my heel, blah, blah, blah. But I need a parking space right out front. And, because we had to go to the hotel and then we were going to be bussed over to where he was graduating. I want the bus to pull up right away. But I just knew it was going to happen. Sure enough, we take off, no traffic. It was like the weekend where there was lots of traffic. There happened to be a parking space right out front because I knew that's what was going to happen. But I used my tools that we learned here in Intuitive Insights. We went up and told the man at the registration okay, we're here, we're going to take the bus. And they said, oh, well, he'll be back in about 15 minutes. We're like, 15 minutes. Right then, the van pulled in. So van pulled in, we got on this bus, right? And then we're going to get on the base. And it's this long line. I'm like, we're going to miss it. We're going to miss it. And I'm like, no, we're not. We're not going to miss it. Mm-mm. All of a sudden, the man in the next lane, which was closed, opens it up and he goes, come this way. Come this way. And I was like, mm-hmm. He pulled up, he got in, and like 10 minutes later, it started. Now, my father was in the Army, didn't want my nephew to go at all. My father had passed away months prior. And so my daughter and I are sitting there because my daughter also went to intuitive insights, took the clairvoyant program, and we're sitting there. And all of a sudden, my daughter and I look at each other. It's like, did you hear that? Do you feel that? My father was sitting right in between us, letting us know and wanting us to give a message to my nephew. Now, they're really staunch Christians. So I'm like, I don't do that. I don't know if I just don't know. But, he kept going, and finally I said, okay, Dad, I promise you, I'll give you the message. I'll give him the message. After he graduated later that day, we went to the beach. And I'm like, oh my gosh, should I? Shouldn't I? My dad comes in, tell him. All right. So I give my nephew the message from my dad, his grandfather. And he started to bawl because he said, oh, that's exactly what happened. I talked to Grandpa all the time while I was there, and that happened. And so he must have been there. Otherwise, he wouldn't have known. And so, it's such a gift, right? But it started with that one decision, that knowing, going, no, we're going to make it. Oh, I have tools to help.
Great.
Yeah. So,
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. And Joe, did you want to tell us something or teach us something that the viewers could benefit from, maybe on making decisions intuitively, or anything you want to say?
Yeah. So I love what you just shared, Corey, because you said there's that moment and you're like, I just feel my dad is right there. And in my book, one thing I didn't share about my grandma's, story was that when that message came through, I just wanted to let you know I've been watching over you. There's no way I could have verified that, right? My mind was still like, am I making this up? Am I just imagining this? And yet in that moment, when that message came through, I'm just watching over you, something just felt right. And I'm using the word feel on purpose here, right? Because, when you're in the center of head, people are getting plenty of clairvoyant pictures and they're getting the gold rose and they're getting this message from their knowing, right? But what a lot of people are missing is coming back into their body. What does your body want to say? What does your body have to say about this? Case in point, if you ever see a beautiful sunset, right? And you're like, it's beautiful. Well, it's beautiful because it's beautiful, right? And you might say something like, I just love that. Where does that come from? This energy of love. It comes from your body, right? So, I had a student the other day. She was like, Joe, I'm trying to, figure out my career. And I keep getting these 333, 777s, and very similar to like, oh, is that my grandma? She kept getting this message, leave. It's time for you to leave your job. But her mind, her overthinking, second guessing, doubting kicked in. And I just had her take a moment. I'm like, just check in with your body, right? So yeah, you're getting all these clairvoyant messages. You're getting the knowing. Your spirit guides are doing this and that. How about checking in with your body? What does your body have to say? What does your body want to contribute? And so she checked in, and it was a really simple message. She goes, the message came through, it's time. So what I want to teach everyone, just to segue into that. Step one, it's practice all the clairvoyance, right? Create the
Well, we'll
rose.
we'll be your student. We'll be your student
Okay.
teachers.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So,
Corey and I will be your student.
okay, yeah. So let's start with just think of a decision that you want to make. And it could be something simple as like, what do I want to eat? Or, what's my next step in life? It could really be anything. Okay. And
Got
go
it.
ahead and close your eyes. If you were to close your eyes here and, just go ahead and just be in the center of your head. And if you were to imagine a rose, let's get back to the basics here. Imagine a rose for the energy of this decision you want to make or you need answers for. And there you are seeing this message. And I like to play with this question. If a picture paints 1,000 words, what is this message, this picture trying to tell me? What's the message or meaning coming through it? And where a lot of students kind of get lost in this is you always want to go the first thing that comes up. Now, in the background, your thinking mind part of you, it's like I like to say, it's like a barking dog in the background. It's like, no, that's not right. No, you're making that up. You're just imagining it, right? Let that be. Let the dog bark in the background. And then get back to that original message, whatever that is. I should do this, or this picture is trying to tell me this is the step to take. So that's step one. Tune in. Step two is now that you got this message, this is where your intuition comes in. And let's just say your intuition is connected with your body. And within your body, you're like, is this the right move? Check in with how that feels. So there you are looking at that picture. I got this message. Does it feel right? Does it feel like that when I watch this sunset? Oh my gosh, this is so beautiful. This is right for me. I would love this. And so what you're going to find is there's that moment of alignment, body, mind, soul, meaning on the soul level, you're getting this beautiful clairvoyant picture. Your mind might be like, I don't know, but you check in with your body and your body's like, yes, move forward. So that's step two, check in with your body. How's it going so far? Everything feeling connected, right? Now, step three, here's where people really mess up. And that is, yeah, it's great to get this picture. It's great to feel good about it. But one of my teachers back in the day, Jenny, she's like, Joe, eventually you're going to have to get off the meditation chair. So guess what you need to do? Don't just let this live in your head, stay in your body. The next step is to take action, right? So you could ask yourself from this picture, from the way I feel, what is the next obvious action step? What would really ground this in my reality if I were to take action now? While you all are looking at that, just quick story. I was hiking along the beach one day, and it was a beautiful sunny day along the Pacific Ocean. And there I was walking, and for some reason, I just got this message, film now. And I'm like, really? You want me to film? God, what are you talking about? And usually when I film, I love to have a script, at least bullet points, but it's like, nope, film now. And I'm taking my advice, practicing what I preach. I checked in with my body. I was like, is this really the right thing to do? And my body was like, yes, now. So I took out my phone, walked along the beach, this beautiful beach in the background. This divine message came through. And what's really interesting, as soon as I was done filming, the clouds came over. It became overcast all of a sudden. So it's like, no wonder, film now, right? And people might think, maybe you're just tuning into the weather. Maybe. But the message that came through, you guys, when I shared it with my audience, people were like, oh my gosh, Joe, that's exactly what I needed. Thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you for being so open and vulnerable that, even if it's not perfect, you just filmed anyway. All right. So that's action. That's when you take action, right? That's what can happen when you really take action, put it out into the world. And so to sum it up, and y'all could come out of meditation here, it starts with one, get the vision, practice all your tools, create that rose, right? Ask yourself, what's the meaning message? What's coming through? And then what's the next obvious action step for me to take? And then take action. That's where people that's when people live amazing lives, is when they actually take action.
I just love that story. It kind of got me in the heart. That you got that divine intervention that just came through you. And I had a girlfriend back in the psychic school. Her name was Trisha, and she wanted to be a documentary maker, but she didn't have a lot of experience. And she found out this number one documentary maker was hiring. So she went in trance, kind of a meditative trance like you had us in. And she got the message, put your resume on blue paper, because she had asked, what do I do to get this job? And that was the answer she got. So she had sent out all these resumes to different people, but for this documentary maker, she put it on blue paper, mailed it in. So she gets a call back, and the callback was, we were looking at the hundreds of resumes, but we saw your blue resume stand out. So we picked it up and read it and said, you put in your resume at the bottom that you were spiritual, and we wanted a spiritual person. So come in for an interview, and they hired her. And that was the message she got. So that is so powerful to have that. Thank you very much. And I also went along and did your steps. I have a big decision coming up, and I saw the rose out in front of me, and it wasn't a big flamboyant rose. It was just kind of a like barely open rose, but the message was to go ahead and go on this trip that I'm trying to decide whether or not to go on. And and then I got my action step next when you said to get off the meditation couch. I got an action step to book the flight, like go and, make the date, go and do it. So thank you very much for sharing.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Yeah, that was absolutely wonderful. And yeah, as I was, as I brought up the rose and, making this decision. And exactly, it came up. It was like, yes, that's the one to do. And in the back of my mind, I was like, really? Because I kind of already prepared for the other one. And then I just laughed at myself. I was like, because hearing you going, the mind goes, I rarely do that, but maybe for this exercise, that's why it happened. And so, but I just kept looking. And when you said feel into your body, I felt, yes, this is the one. Even though you've prepared for the other one, this is the one. Okay. And I love that. And the action. That is, like you said, this is where everybody messes up, is the action. And we can get the messages, but taking the action. That was a big step for me in the beginning, getting the messages and going, okay, am I crazy? No, I got it. But then taking the action. Because in the beginning, you don't know what's going to happen, but you just got to trust, right? The childlike wonder is always where I go. Like, well, let's just see,
Yeah.
Just try this out.
Well, one quick thing I wanted to say, we only have a few minutes left, but Joe, your book, Journey of the Awakened Psychic, is there anything you want to tell us from the book, or a little something you could teach the audience about from your book?
Well, one thing, the reason why it's called the Journey of the Awakened Psychic in the first place is basically the journey that each of you took today by following these steps, right? It starts with, getting in the center of your head, seeing that rose, creating the rose. What's the message, right? But ultimately, one thing I want to add to that, beyond the 10 steps, is once you get all that down, right? Because everyone loves the clairvoyant part, the psychic part, the spirit guides part. But what use of it is all of that, if not to come back down into the body, right? So just so you know, it's not an easy journey. And that's why I call it a journey, because you will face all your pictures, you will face all your doubts and programs and all of that, right? And yet, the beauty of taking a program like what's offered at Intuitive Insights, like that's where you get the healing. That's where you clear all these pictures so that you can get your truth, connect to